Is Tuesday, February the 21st. This is the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. I'll do a quick run through the roll. Councilmember Bradford is present. Councilmember Gamble. Councilmember Hager's here. Murphy, I believe, is not going to be present for committee today. Haven't seen Councilmember O'Connell just yet. Councilmember Parker is here, Vice Chair Rutherford, Councilmember Sepulveda, Toombs, Van Rees. So we have, at this moment, we have 9. So we are ready to go. We do have a lengthy agenda today. Most things are on consent, unless anyone requests to pull them off. The items on your agenda that are not on consent that I have are items that have an amendment or a substitute. For ordinance 1471, if that's okay, I'll move that one to the heel. So that's not on consent. We did have a committee recommendation on the amendments, but we deferred the bill, and so we didn't take a recommendation on the bill itself. So I won't go through all the amendments this time, but we'll make sure that we get a committee recommendation. But if it's okay, I'll move that one to the heel. The other ordinances that are not on consent, Councilmember Welsh has joined us. That gets us up to 10. Wonderful. The other items are number 24, Ordinance Bill 2022-1509 by Councilmember Syracuse. That one has an amendment. Bill 2022-1600 by O'Connell. That one has a substitute. Ordinance Bill 2022-1619, we have a request to defer one, so I'll just go ahead and leave that on consent, but for a deferral. Item number 31, Ordinance Bill 2022-1644 by Councilmember Syracuse has a substitute. And Ordinance Bill item number 42, Bill 2023-1669 by Councilmember Swope has an amendment. And everything else should be on consent unless anyone has anything that you would like to pull. Councilmember Toombs, let me go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Number 29 and 30, I want to excuse me, move to defer those one meeting.
29 and 30?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and if that's okay, I'll leave this on consent, but with a deferral recommendation. Anything else? All right, well, let me get started reading through the captions. So, we'll begin with resolutions. Item number 1, Resolution RS 2023-2019. The sponsors are Councilmembers Roten and Withers. Pardon me. Approves the First Amendment to the lease agreement between Metro Government and Jocelyn Sign Company for real property located at 630 Murfreesboro Pike. Item number 2, Resolution RS 2023-2021. The sponsors are Councilmembers Sledge, Roten, Withers, and Pulley. This approves a participation agreement between Metro Government, acting by and through Metro Water, and Development Street Development, LLC, to provide stormwater infrastructure improvements through funding the design and construction of an improved stormwater system. Item number 3, Resolution RS 2023-2022. Councilmembers Sledge, Roten, Withers, and Pulley are the sponsors. This authorizes Metro Government to enter into a utility relocation contract number 9313 with the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation to construct project PIN number 125526.08 on State Route 1, which is Murfreesboro Road, from Division Street to near Volte Boulevard in Nashville. Item number 4, Resolution RS 2023-2025. The sponsors are Council Members Evans, Roten, Withers, and Pulley. Approves an intergovernmental agreement by and between the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation and Metro Government, acting by and between Nashville, NDOT, for the repairing of existing pavement failures and resurfacing of 0.660 miles of Old Hickory Boulevard. Item number 5, Resolution RS 2023-2026. The sponsors of Councilmembers Roberts, Withers, and Pulley authorizes Camden Nations LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 4901 through 5003 Louisiana Avenue and 4908 through 5010 Tennessee Avenue. Item number 6, Resolution RS 2023-2028. The sponsors are Councilmembers Roten, Withers, and Pulley. Approves Amendment 2 to an agreement between TDOT and NDOT for the acceptance of work in connection with the construction of Hart Lane from east of Whitney Park Drive to near State Route 6 in Davidson County. Now we're moving on to bills on second reading. Item number 7, Ordinance Bill 2023-1692. The sponsors are Councilmembers Withers and Pulley. Adopts the geographic street system with the recordation of renaming, additions and deletions of acceptances and abandonments as reflected on the centerline layer to date as the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance record for Metro government. Item number 8, Ordinance Bill 2023-1695. The sponsors are Councilmembers Toombs, Broughton, Withers, and Pulley. Authorizes granting of temporary construction easements to Piedmont Gas on certain property owned by Metro government located at 0 Brick Church Pike and 1354 Brick Church Pike. Item number 9, Ordinance Bill 2023-1697. The sponsors are Councilmembers O'Connell, Withers, and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to abandon existing public utility easement for property located at 738th Avenue South. Item number 10, Ordinance Bill 2023-1698. The sponsors are Councilmembers Withers and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at 3105 Hamilton Church Road, also known as Hamilton Church Road Sewer Extension. Item number 11, Ordinance Bill 2023-1699. Sponsors are Withers and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assembly, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at 3161 Hamilton Church Road, also known as Grinstead Townhomes. Item number 12, Ordinance Bill 2023-1700. The sponsors are Councilmembers O'Connell, Withers, and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to accept new water and sanitary sewer main, fire hydrant assembly, and sanitary sewer manhole for property located at 825 6th Avenue South, also known as Modera Sobro Phase 1. Item number 13, Ordinance Bill 2023-1701. The sponsors are Councilmembers Cash, Withers, and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to abandon public fire hydrant assembly for property located at 1215 21st Avenue South. Item number 14, Ordinance Bill 2023-1702. The sponsors are Councilmembers Parker, Withers, and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to abandon existing public water main and easements to accept new public water main for property located at 1233 Lishi Avenue and 1300 North 5th Street, also known as Startlet East Townhomes. Item number 15, Ordinance Bill 2023-1703. The sponsors are Councilmembers Toombs, Withers, and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to abandon existing water mains, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements, and to accept new public water mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manhole, and easements for property located at 334 Ewing Drive, also known as Ewing Heights. Item number 16, Ordinance Bill 2023-1704. The sponsors are Councilmembers Withers and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to accept the relocation of existing public water main for property located at 1421 Rural Hill Road, also known as Novo Antioch. Item number 17, Ordinance Bill 2023-1705. The sponsors are Councilmembers Withers and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to accept new public water main and fire hydrant assembly for property located at 1631 Corporate Place. Item number 18, Ordinance Bill 2023-1706. The sponsors are Councilmembers Gamble, Withers, and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at 3500 Brick Church Pike, also known as Thornton Grove Phase 4. And item number 19, Ordinance Bill 2023-1707. The sponsors are Councilmembers Sledge, Withers, and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to accept new public sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manhole located at 600 Southgate Avenue. Now moving on to bills on third reading. We're going to skip number 20 because that's moved to the heel. Item number 21, which is Ordinance Bill 2022-1481, as amended. This is by Councilmember Toombs. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by amending a specific plan on various properties located southeast of Buena Vista Pike at the intersection of Buena Vista and Cliff Drive, zoned R8 and SP, encompassing 3.34 acres, to add an additional parcel to the existing specific plan, to permit an additional 15 multifamily residential units for a total of 73 multifamily residential units. Item number 22, Ordinance Bill 2022-1482 by Councilmember Toombs. This authorizes building restrictions for that property that we just read. Item number 23, Ordinance Bill 2022-1508 by Councilmember Toombs amends various sections of the Metro Code to change the multifamily use in IWD, which is Industrial Warehouse Distribution, and IR, which is Industrial Restrictive Zoning Districts, from being permitted with conditions to requiring a special exception. Next is item 26, Ordinance BL 2022-1609 by Councilmember Parker. This amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from MULA to SP zoning for property located at 2631 and 2635 Gallatin Avenue at the corner of Carolyn and Gallatin, and within the Gallatin Pike Urban Design Overlay to permit all uses of MULA plus kennel and to adjust the standards required for a kennel. Item number 27, Ordinance BL 2022-1619 by Councilmember Roberts. This amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from R6 to SP zoning for property located at 6111 Cowden Avenue to permit a surface parking lot. This one is on consent for a one-meeting deferral. Item number 28, Ordinance Bill 2022-1628. The sponsors are Councilmembers Van Rees and Allen, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS10 to RM20ANS zoning for property located at 105 Hart Lane, encompassing 0.31 acres. Item number 29, Ordinance Bill 2022-1642. The sponsors are Councilmembers Hall and Toombs, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from CLCS and RS 7.5 to MULA-NS and RM20ANS zoning for property located at 4100 Clarksville Pike. And within the Clarksville Pike at Fairview Center Urban Design Overlay District, and partially within a portion of a PUD encompasses 14.19 acres. This one is on consent for a one-meeting deferral. Item number 30, Ordinance Bill 2022-1643, also by Councilmember Hall and Toombs. This would cancel a portion of a PUD at 4100 Clarksville Pike. That one is also on consent for a one-meeting deferral. Next is item 32. This is Ordinance Bill 2022-1645. The sponsors are Councilmembers Van Rees and Allen. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by amending a specific plan district on property located at the southwest corner of Creative Way and Inspiration Boulevard, encompassing 4.71 acres, to increase the allowed square footage of non-residential uses within the mixed-use development and to increase the permitted height of Building M to 2 stories in 40 feet. Item number 33, Ordinance Bill 2022-1646. The sponsor is Councilmember Hall, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS40 to AR2A zoning for property located at Clarksville Pike unnumbered at the southwest corner of Coles Lane and Clarksville Pike, encompassing 3 acres. Item number 34, Ordinance Bill 2023-1661. The sponsor is Councilmember O'Connell, authorizes building and material restrictions for Ordinance Bill 2022-1600. A proposed specific plan zoning district for properties located at 1503, 1509, 1511, 1515, and 1517 McGavock Street, encompassing 1.87 acres, located at the southwest corner of 14th Avenue South and McGavock Street. Item number 35, Ordinance Bill 2023-1662. The sponsor is Councilmember Toombs, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from IWD to MUGA-NS zoning for properties located at 240 and 250 Venture Circle, encompassing 4.8 acres. Item number 36, Ordinance Bill 2023-1663. The sponsor is Councilmember Lee, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from AR2A to SP zoning for property located at 3834 Pinhook Road to permit 39 single-family residential lots. Item number 37, Ordinance Bill 2023-1664. The sponsor is Councilmember Lee. That applies building material restrictions to the above property. Item number 38, Ordinance Bill 2023-1665, as amended by Councilmember Gamble, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from R10 to SP zoning for property located at 633 West Green Lane at the southwest corner of West Green Lane and Whites Creek Pike, encompassing 78.22 acres to permit a mixed-use development. Item number 39, Ordinance Bill 2023-1666. This is also by Councilmember Gamble, and it applies building materials restrictions to the previously read property. Item number 40, Ordinance Bill 2023-1667. The sponsor is Councilmember Toombs. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS10 to RM15A NS for property located at 1918 South Hamilton Road, encompassing 0.3 acres. Item number 41, Ordinance Bill 2023-1668. The sponsor is Councilmember Roberts. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from CS to R20A zoning for property located at 6104 Cowden Avenue, encompassing 0.14 acres. Item number 43, Ordinance Bill 2023-1670. The sponsor is Councilmember Syracuse. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from R10 to SP zoning for property located at 110 Fairway Drive, encompassing 3.16 acres to permit 19 multifamily residential units. Item number 44, Ordinance Bill 2023-1671. The sponsor is Councilmember Syracuse. Authorizes building material restrictions for the above property. Item number 45, Ordinance Bill 2023-1672. The sponsor is Councilmember Sledge. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from IR to MULA and S zoning for property located at 492 Craighead Street, encompassing 5.8 acres. Item number 46, Ordinance Bill 2023-1673. The sponsor is Councilmember O'Connell. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by amending a specific plan for properties located at 1801, 1803A, and 1803B, 5th Avenue North, and 502A, 502B, and 502C Buchanan Street, at the northwest corner of Buchanan and 5th Avenue North, zoned SP, encompassing 0.28 acres, and located in the Salem Town Neighborhood Conservation Overlay District to permit 3 multifamily residential units and 2,900 square feet of non-residential units, or non-residential uses, rather. Item number 47, Ordinance Bill 2023-1674. The sponsor is Councilmember O'Connell. This applies building material restrictions to the above properties. Item number 48. This is Ordinance Bill 2023-1675. The sponsor is Councilmember Parker. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from CN to RS5. By changing from CN and RS5 to MUNA NS zoning for properties located at 500 East Trinity Lane and Edwin Street unnumbered, encompassing 0.44 acres. Item number 49, Ordinance Bill 2023-1676. The sponsor is Councilmember Toombs. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by applying a neighborhood conservation zoning overlay district to various properties located on Latham Court and Youngs Lane, zoned R6 and R8, encompassing 11.96 acres. Item number 50, Ordinance Bill 2023-1677. The sponsor is Councilmember Syracuse. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from OL, OR20, and R10 to MULA and S zoning for properties located at 117, 119, and 121 Fairway Drive, encompassing 2.49 acres and located within the downtown Donaldson Urban Design Overlay District. Item number 51, Ordinance Bill 2023-1678 by Councilmember Welsh, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS 7.5 to R8A zoning for property located at 465 Radnor Street, encompassing 0.3 acres. Item number 52, Ordinance Bill 2023-1679. The sponsor is Councilmember Parker. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from IWD to RM20A and S zoning for properties located at 836 and 838 Cherokee Avenue, encompassing 0.95 acres. Item number 53, Ordinance Bill 2023-1680. The sponsor is Councilmember Sepulveda. Amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from CS and R6 to SP zoning for properties located at 4612 Nolensville Pike and Nolensville Pike unnumbered, and a portion of property located at 4608 Nolensville Pike, encompassing 7.15 acres and located within a corridor design overlay district to permit 180 multifamily residential units. And finally, item number 54, Ordinance number Bill 2023-1681. The sponsor is Councilmember Sepulveda. This applies building materials restrictions to the above properties. Do any of these items need to come off of the consent agenda for any reason? If not, I will call on Vice Chair Rutherford for a motion.
Great job, Mr. Chairman, reading through all of that. I move approval of the consent agenda.
We have a motion that's properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And I note that Councilmember O'Connell's here, which brings us up to 11. So we almost have a complete quorum today. So for the remaining items, as I mentioned, I'm going to place 1471 on the heel, but I'll quickly run through the other items, which are 24 and 25. So then, Councilmember Syracuse, your item is next. I'll go ahead and read the caption. That's Ordinance Bill 2022-1509, sponsors Councilmember Syracuse, amends chapters 17.36 and 17.40 of the Metro Code to create a two-story residential overlay district. And we do have an amendment. Vice Chair Rutherford, would you move the bill for consideration?
I move approval of the bill.
Thank you. All right. And so, Councilmember Syracuse, if you would like to discuss your amendment, please.
Thank you, Chair. This actually makes this two-story overlay proposal even less restrictive. The accessory dwelling piece of this was really not necessary, and again, kind of lends itself more to a contextual rather than this two-story overlay. So it again makes it that much more pragmatic that it fits our post-World War II neighborhoods, and this was based on feedback from neighbors. So we're just removing that one little piece of this. Thank you.
Okay. And is there any comment about that from planning? No. Okay. All right. So Syracuse is not on our committees. So would Vice Chair Rutherford, would you move the amendment?
Move approval of the amendment.
All right. We have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then for the bill as amended.
Move approval of the bill as amended.
Great. Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Wonderful. And next we have from Councilmember O'Connell, we have item number 25. This is Ordinance Bill 2022-1600. It amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from CF to SP zoning for properties located at 1503, 1509, 1511, 1515, and 1517 McGavick Street, encompassing 1.87 acres, located at the southwest corner of 14th Avenue South and McGavick Street, and located within the Arts Center Redevelopment Overlay District and the Music Row Urban Design Overlay District to permit a mixed-use development. And I will call on Councilmember O'Connell. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will invite the planning table to explain the substitute here, which is the reason why this is not on consent.
Would you go ahead and move the bill?
Oh, sure. Thank you. I'd like to move the bill.
All right. Thank you. We have a second. Okay, so we have it for our consideration. I'll call on the planning table to discuss the substitute, please.
Sure. So the substitute is just to add the conditions of approval from the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Okay. Councilmember O'Connell, would you like to move the substitute?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the substitute, please.
All right. Is there a second? We have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then now for the bill as substituted.
So moved.
Great. Do we have a second? All right. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That one was deferred. That one was deferred. That one was deferred. Then I think our next one is 42 for Councilmember Swope. Those two, we just put them on consent for, 31. That's fine. Good to have a second set of eyes on things. All right, so next is item number 31, which is also Councilmember Syracuse. This is Ordinance Bill 2022-1644, amends the Metro Zoning Code by amending a specific plan district on property located at 1908 Lebanon Pike and Lebanon Pike unnumbered, encompassing 5.92 acres to increase the allowed building height to 3 stories and 45 feet, all of which is described herein. Vice Chair Rutherford, would you mind moving the bill?
I move approval of the bill.
Great. Is there a second? All right, so we have it before us. Then I'll call on Councilmember Syracuse.
Thank you, Chair. This is actually just an amendment to the existing SP. It doesn't change the development proposal at all. This was an error because there's two product types. One is a townhome in front and the two-story single-family in the back. In the language, they made it so that it was all two-story height, but they didn't account for the two types of product. So because the bill completely passed, signed by the mayor, they had to go through the whole thing again. So this really is just a correction and a slight amendment of the SP. Thank you.
All right. Any commentary from planning?
The substitute just adds the conditions of the Planning Commission's approval to the bill.
Wonderful. Vice Chair, would you move the amendment, please?
Motion on the amendment.
Great. Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then for the bill as amended?
Motion on the bill as amended.
Wonderful. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All righty. And I think next we have item 42. So our next item is item number 42, Ordinance Bill 2023-1669. This is by Councilmember Swope, amends the Metro Zoning Code by amending a portion of a PUD for property located at 760 Old Hickory Boulevard at the northwest corner of Brentwood Commons Way and Old Hickory Boulevard, encompassing 4.2 acres, to permit a new hotel. And there is an amendment by Councilmember Swope. Vice Chair Rutherford, would you move the bill for consideration?
Motion on the bill.
All right. Is there a second? All right, so we have before us, I'll call on Councilmember Swope to discuss your amendment, please.
Thank you, Chair. I move the amendment. The only reason there's an amendment on this is because this subsection, which limited it to an additional 140 rooms, was basically just forgotten and left off the original legislation.
Okay. Any comment from planning? Okay. Planning concurs with that. So, Vice Chair, would you move the amendment?
Motion on the amendment.
Great. Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then for the bill as amended?
Motion on the bill as amended.
We have a motion that's properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so I believe that leaves us with Ordinance 1471. We had a very lengthy discussion about that in committee. At our last meeting, we actually took a recommendation on the amendments, so I'm not planning on running through the amendments again. But we do need to have a recommendation on the bill. And so unless anyone sees differently, but I'll call on Councilmember Parker to move the bill, and what we might also do is check in with departments if you feel like that's appropriate. But
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so I'll move the bill, and I also, on the point of how we approach the amendments, I realized that we did have a lengthy discussion and make recommendations on the amendments. There were more, I believe at least one additional amendment in the previous one, so I just want to make sure, because these have been renumbered, I believe one of the amendments was withdrawn. Can we review the recommendation for the these three amendments all do the same thing with a different variable. So we can call it the 5-person, the 4-person, and the 3-person, 1, 2, and 3 respectively, I believe. So can we review the recommendations that this committee made on those amendments so that we're all on the same page here?
I don't happen to have that in front of me, but we might have it.
I know the result, I don't know the count.
Yeah, I can't remember I might have it in my book bag, but.
Well, if the committee finds it sufficient to say that Amendment 1 was recommended for approval,
Yeah.
and Amendments 2 and 3 were not recommended for approval.
That's right.
We can
that is
proceed
accurate,
if folks on the committee are comfortable with that.
Yeah, and we can track down those final numbers before we get to the floor.
Thank you, yes.
And then it's my understanding that I had recommended a deferral because it seemed like at the time that the codes department and planning, and it seemed like the different departments had different interpretations of the bill a little bit, and also in terms of different understandings of how it would be enforced. And so I think if it's okay with Councilmember Parker, I'll call on the planning table just to give us an update of how those discussions have gone.
Certainly. Since the last meeting and with the deferral, the planning department, myself and Lucy Kemp met with Codes team to discuss several things. The amendments that were proposed. So the original recommendation from the Planning Commission was to approve with an increase to 7. There then were the amendments that were filed for 5, 3, and 4. That's sort of the order that they're listed in the packet now. And so we discussed with the codes department if the amendment to 5 was placed on, what their view of the bill was, and they did not have objections. I'll let them speak for themselves, but they did not have objections to 5. And then they can speak to enforcement if you have specific questions. I know we talked a lot about some of the things that are questions about enforcement are parking or noise, and those are already sort of enforceable things that the codes department already looks at. And so, but we did meet with them to have a conversation to make sure that we were all on the same page.
Thank you for that. And do we have a representative from Codes here that can speak to that? Not. There's Mr. Hall. So. Thank you, Byron. I'll welcome any feedback you have.
We have met with the planning department and met with some other folks as well due to the enforcement. And while we always have concerns about new policies and the enforcement on this in an effort to try to work between departments, we don't have a problem with it moving to 5. We already have ordinances in place to take care of parking on the grass. I think we'll do our best to enforce it and provide feedback and voice any concerns at a later time.
Great. Thank you so much, Director Hall. Councilmember Parker, is it okay? I think Councilmember O'Connell had raised his hand. Did you have a question? And then also Councilmember Pulley. Is it okay to call on colleagues just for any other discussion on the bill? So I will call next on Councilmember O'Connell. Recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I have really there are, I think, two fundamental questions I have, and I might ask the sponsor to address one, and I think the other one is really left for the departments. And so I know, as this bill kind of materialized out of community concerns, it was sort of about how overcrowding is determined, and then there is also this element of the number of unrelated people who can live in in a house effectively. And I guess I'd just like to make sure I understand from the sponsor, if we go forward with the bill as amended to the tune of what the committee has recommended, the change in actual outcome for the sort of definition of family and unrelated people versus status quo. And then I guess for the departments, the thing I'm trying to make sure I understand is from what planning and codes just offered, are we to understand that as of today, if this bill passes with the amendment that has been recommended by the committee, that legal, codes, and planning are all on the same page in terms of how and whether enforcement will exist and be applied consistently countywide? Thank you.
Okay, I'll let Councilmember Parker respond to that if you like.
Thank you. So as I understood your question, the two pieces that are not directly related to the number of unrelated individuals, so the piece, the recommended amendment does maintain the correction of the related and unrelated, the mixed households, as I've called them, where the example I've used is if my girlfriend and I had a roommate and then we decided to get married, all of a sudden we cannot have that roommate anymore under the way the code's currently constructed. So this maintains that fix. The amended version would. And then I had a email from Will Dodd placed on everyone's desk that I think does a better job of explaining the The third thing that this bill does, which is also maintained in the amended version, as it relates to the definition of a dwelling unit and how that ties into. So my starting point with this bill was I thought it was odd that Metro was defining family in this way, period. So I started there. That caused some concern from codes and because there were lots of other places in the code where that comes into play, and it would have created some unintended consequences. So this is the approach that we settled on, working together with planning and codes. And so that third thing, the changing the definition of dwelling unit to allow Metro legal comfort with moving forward with abatement cases, that is maintained in this recommended version. So I hope that I answered my piece of your questions.
Director Hall, do you have anything to add to that, or just want to give you an opportunity to respond while you're here with us? So.
No, sir. I think he covered it well. I feel like legal codes and planning are all on the same page with this now.
Great. Thank you so much. Next, I have Councilmember Pulley. What's that? Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So I think I'm connecting all the dots here. So we are, I think as we arrive at the floor with the bill and the amendment currently recommended by this committee, what I am hearing is that the sponsor is satisfied with the definitions as applied, and that all three of the primary Metro entities are going to enforce with a consistent outlook. Is that a fair statement?
I could say that that's my understanding of where we are.
Okay.
So yes.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So next I have thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Next I have Councilmember Pulley, and then I see Councilmember Johnston. Councilmember Pulley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick questions for Director Hall. During the last meeting, you said you did not support this bill increasing any number. Do I understand what you're saying now is that's changed to where you do support the number 5?
Well, I think in an effort, any time our department goes with a new policy, when it increases something, we have concern about enforcement. But we met with planning. There's a resolution by Councilmember Cash that's coming that we think will help with enforcement from our standpoint, and it in an effort to try to work and move everything forward. We're willing to go with that. Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you say help with enforcement, what are you talking about enforcing?
There's the overcrowding.
Enforcing the number, keeping the number down to whatever it is that the council decides?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So there's no really enforcement mechanism that can address the concern of additional vehicles which would be on the street, which would technically be legal to park. So if, for example, if we increase the number to five unrelated individuals with 5 vehicles and their friends' vehicles on the street parking legally, there's nothing you can do about that, is there?
But codes doesn't have any jurisdiction over the public right-of-way, so there's nothing that codes could do about that.
Nothing anybody can do with it if they're parked legally, is that correct?
If they're parked legally, that's correct.
Okay.
Unless the street is marked for no parking it's my understanding, unless it's marked by NDOT as no parking, that it's legal street parking is legal, yes.
And some of these enforcement mechanisms would be offered by the police department, is that right? Relative to this bill?
Correct, yes, sir.
And there's no control that you would have over the response time of the police department?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you, I appreciate that. Mr. Chair, I do want to make one other clarifying point, and you spoke to this so eloquently when you introduced this bill. There was confusion over really everybody be on the same page relative to the bill, and there was confusion over the amendments. So I think it's pretty clear everybody didn't have a clear understanding of the definition of each amendment, and that they all were in fact the same with respect to every other issue in the substitute bill with the exception of the number. So I don't think that was clear. And so it's unfortunate that the committee weighed in on the amendments ahead of time or during that time period without deferring them. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
And I understand that. And the committee recommendation is just a recommendation, so we will still have a floor vote. And also this bill will come before another committee this afternoon too. If that committee chooses to take up the amendments, that opportunity still remains. But the point taken, but yeah. Next is Councilmember Johnston.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm just sort of wondering, because at the last committee meeting, it was made very clear that it's hard to enforce what we already have on the books, which is 3. So how are you going to enforce any number, much less 4 or 5, that we're contemplating when we don't have square footage? The part of the code in Section 16 that defines square footage and all that is a building code. It's not an enforcement tool from an occupancy perspective. So how are you going to enforce this when you do have complaints, regardless of cars parked on the grass, increased trash, noise, complaints, et cetera, et cetera?
The square footage rule can still be enforced even under this. We're not contained by. I don't think by this ordinance we're contained. We're kept from using the square footage from an enforcement from the codes department.
I was told specifically that Section 16 is not enforced from a property standards perspective because that is a building code. Plus, it requires the homeowner to allow you access to the structure in order to make those measurements, which they do not have to allow access. So it's unenforceable just from that perspective, period. So again, how are you going to enforce this? You said you couldn't enforce, it was hard enough to enforce 3 that you couldn't support any number increase, but now that's changed. I'm just wondering what the enforcement tool is.
We are going to, first off, we're going to change our landlord registration. That'll be a tool that we can use that allows a landlord to know what the rules are from the very beginning. A lot of the landlords are not aware of that. Any enforcement of overcrowding is difficult, whether the number be 3, 5, 7, it doesn't matter, because we end up having to prove, in the past, we've ended up having to prove some relation in this. In the event that the bill moves forward the way it is, it's my understanding of it. If there's 5 unrelated, that won't be a violation anymore.
Exactly. So, right. So, the other thing that I think is worth pointing out is that right now someone can say that they are related, and that's a hard stop. And so it's sort of a known loophole in our code in that that's not enforced because we don't require any type of proof of relation from marriage, blood, or law. And so in actuality, what we're doing is we're allowing up to 5 people at this point, based off of the recommendation of this committee, up to 5 people to live in one dwelling unit with really, in reality, no square footage restrictions. So you could have a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment whatever dwelling unit with 5 people in it, which that home was not designed for that. It is overcrowding, and yet we are bringing into compliance problems.
I follow where you're going with that. I don't.
In reality, there's really no way to enforce any type of occupancy rule because they don't have to allow you access to the home. And so what we're doing is expanding upon a definition, allowing more people to live in one dwelling unit when we can't even really, in reality, enforce what we already have. And so all that is really going to do is cause problems.
Okay, thank you for that observation. Yeah, that's fine. So I will, we do have, from legal counsel, we do have a summary of what our past recommendation was on the amendments. And then I'll bring it back to Councilman Parker. So let me, there you go.
Okay, so amendment number 1 is the amendment that would have 5 persons allowed to live there. That was recommended 8 in favor, 1 against, and 0 abstaining at the February 7th meeting. Amendment number 2, this is the one that has 3 persons allowed. That would, at the February 7th meeting, it was not recommended for approval, 3 in favor, 5 against, and 1 abstaining. Amendment number 3 is the amendment that allows 4 persons. At the February 7th meeting, it was not recommended, 2 in favor, 7 against, and 0 abstaining.
Thank you so much for providing that recap. And again, I mean, it's a recommendation, but we will still have a floor vote. And I believe this also comes for another committee this afternoon. So it's back to Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a couple of points to follow up on some comments. You know, we have there's a 4th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution that establishes protection against unwarranted search and seizure. You know, I think our codes folks do a really incredible job of handling some tough abatement issues within that context. But, you know, this body doesn't have the authority to do an end run around the 4th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Also, I don't, you know, there was a suggestion that perhaps we should get in the business of collecting familial records household to household in this city. And that's not something that I think any government should be doing. And so I just wanted to highlight that and say that I really don't think that we want to get into, you know, a registry of relations of every Nashvilleian in every household. So, you know, can I, at this point, can I move, how do we vote on the bill as amended with Amendment 1? What would a proper motion be? Or do we?
I would just move the bill.
Just move the bill.
Just move the bill at this time, yeah.
With the knowledge that we have a favorable recommendation from the committee on Amendment 1, which reduces 7 to 5. Okay. Well, with that, I'll renew my motion to vote on the bill.
Great. So we have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion that's properly seconded for this. Going to ask our planning committee members to raise your hands if you're in favor so that we can count for planning and zoning committee, and then we'll also have another committee recommendation later. So in favor of the bill, we have 2, 3, could you, if you're on a planning and zoning committee, this is recommendation of approval of the bill. And so please raise your hands. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we already know the amendment for 5 is recommended by the committee. And is this technically thinking of the bill as amended as such? Okay, thank you.
Well, that's the only amendment that was recommended. So essentially it is the bill as with that amendment, but so with 5, yeah. So let me go ahead and turn your mic on. There
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, will the other amendments that have recently been submitted be taken on the floor? Is that how that will work? Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other discussion? So once again, so for planning zoning committee members, if you're in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And I'll join that, so that'll be 7. All right, so that is, we're in favor. Now, for planning and zoning committee members who are in opposition, please raise your hands. And that, I believe, Are there any abstentions for any reason? Okay. So the bill, assuming that it would be with Councilmember Parker's amendment, has a planning and zoning recommendation of 7 in favor and 3 against. And that concludes the Planning and Zoning Committee agenda, but we do have a presentation about the capital improvements budget, capital improvements budget spending prioritization. So. And then I know we'll delve into budget and finance, but.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. We're a little technical glitch. We're trying to get the list up on the screen. We plugged in. Oh, let me see. Screen is blank.
You want to try one?
Yeah, we're gonna go.
Come to the table.